Ultimately, people just you got to start taking sleep seriously.
Yes.
Especially in this the hustle culture that we talked about and touched on earlier. It really, I see those posts that, I thrive on 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night. And
it's catch up with gosh. You. The common thing people say is, I'll sleep when I die. Well, I tell you're going to carry on this behavior, you're going to die.
It'll happen sooner than you think.
From the business capital of the world, the Big Apple, New York, Middle Tennessee, it says here. Sounds riveting.
It is.
This is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, a podcast about Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals.
Mostly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt Wilson, the big voice guy for the show, the previously known as the What's Your Problem podcast. We decided to rename it because and be a little bit more specific about the name. The Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast is all about Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals and their stories, their struggles, their challenges, their triumphs. That's what we talk about because we love the entrepreneurial and business community here in Middle Tennessee. It's vibrant. It is so vibrant. It's crazy. Check out my buddy, his podcast as well, the big voice guy, Matt Wilson. Mostly Marketing. I may have borrowed a element of his name and put it into mine. That may have happened. Actually, it really did. I'm just transparent about it. This is a video and audio podcast. Check us out at MMTBP.com. MMTBP, otherwise known as Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast.com. Both work, but maybe the truncated version is a little bit easier to remember. And you say it enough over and over and over again and hear it enough, hopefully you'll remember it. But right now, just put it in your phone. I am your host, Jim McCarthy, with JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com and It'sYourShow.co, where you can get quality podcasts like this one. I do produce for a multitude of clients all around the region and more. And we're onboarding clients on a weekly basis at this point. It's pretty cool. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in. Today's episode is a friend of mine for several years now. We go back to BNI. And he's a sleep doctor. He's been on the show before, so he's an alum, and he's always a joy to have. And in this episode, you're going to learn a lot about the personal branding space, being an author, and a lot about the NFL and sleep. Dr. Bijoy John, welcome back, my friend.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be here, Jim.
Yeah, buddy. Bring that microphone a little bit closer to your mouth, if you will. There you
go.
Right. There you go. Perfect. So Dr. Bijoy John, for those of you who don't know, he is a board-certified physician with specialties in pulmonary critical care, sleep medicine, and you're the founder and medical director of Sleep Wellness Clinics of America and the one and only Sleep Fix Academy. You're an author of a new book that's coming out next month called Nobody's Sleeping, 7 Proven Sleep Strategies for Better Health and Happiness. And I know a lot about this. Guys, on the surface, it seems like maybe a boring or mundane topic when you're talking about sleep. But let me tell you something. We did like 10 podcast episodes that you wanted to like truncated versions of what the book is about. Correct. And we sat in the studio, Mr. Eli over there, and 10 Bear Lane, I want to say. He's got a podcast studio out there, and it looks a little bit more stylish than this one does. And we sat there for 2 or 3 days recording podcast episodes, just small 10 to 15-minute episodes, delving into the topics of what people don't think about when it comes to sleeping. And that means sleep apnea. It could be, lack of sleep, sleep debt, a concept I never even was aware of. I found that utterly fascinating. And then you got into sleep and sports and how you think that NFL teams win and lose.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
A lot to know about sleep. Sleep is the superpower.
Nobody would think it, though.
Yeah, we all have it, but once you discover and use it, you can be a fully charged. Most people are walking with a sleep debt. Yeah. They're tired in a mental fog, and they're not the best version of themselves. But if you have good sleep, you are rejuvenated, you're revitalized, you're ready to go. I've discovered through my own journey and my struggles, I couldn't sleep. I had, med school was rough. then when I lost my mom, and then when I started this business. But I found a way throughout this process, and then I fine-tuned it and have developed the 7 proven sleep strategies. I even have an acronym for that. It's called Sleep Now. We'll go over it as we go along. Yeah. So I want everybody to share this joy that I have when I feel rested. Everybody can attest. When they sleep, they are in great shape. But, if you go sleep deprived, sleep deprived is always like being...
There's a debt to it.
Correct. It's also almost like being drunk.
Yeah.
So there are several studies that have shown that too.
And even thinking about the entrepreneurial space, everybody that's listening to this podcast is probably aware that there's such a fraternity style approach to the entrepreneurial revolution that's happening, not just here in Nashville and Middle Tennessee, but in the entire country. Everybody is tapping into their own self, not preservation, but like their own driven, like, what do I want out of life? I understand it's going to take some sort of entrepreneurial skill and talent. And a lot of these guys speak to the notion of, sleep when you're dead, that kind of thing, grind while others are sleeping, get
the
up.
Hustle culture.
The hustle culture,
Yes.
exactly. Wake up at 4 a.m.,
Yes.
that kind of stuff. And it's like every time I see it, dude, now, thanks to those podcast episodes we did, I tag you in those things, right?
All right.
And I'm like, hey, Bijoy John, you know something about this. And you chime in with
Yes.
you're like, hey, no, 10 to 6, dude.
Correct.
You got to
Hey,
stick with
Jim,
those.
you remember well.
That's right.
That's right.
Hey, before we get any further, we got to do this in honor of Mr. Ed Fox, the Dad Joke Challenge. Did we do this the last time you were on?
Yes.
Okay. So you're aware of it. You know how it works. I actually do keep score now. The Dad Joke Challenge is brought to you by Trade Bank of Nashville with Mr. Ed Fox, a wonderful human being. Reach out and say hello to him. He's on all the socials, Facebook. You'll find him on LinkedIn. Of course, he's on Instagram mostly, and TikTok. He'll do his dad jokes. He does wear a tag that says, ask me a dad joke. He will have probably a dad joke you've never heard before at the ready. And it'll be different every single time. But his main thing is Trade Bank of Nashville. If you're a business that's got services, products, maybe things are slow, some products are maybe sitting on a shelf way too long, maybe growing some moss or mold, Trade Bank has a good alternate economy option, meaning you're tapping into another network of businesses that you could trade with and network with that agree and believe in the same kind of concept of trade that you do. So check it out. All the details are in the description. Ed, of course, does all of our jokes. If you laugh, I get a point. If I laugh, you get a point. You ready?
Yeah, right.
All right, here we go. There are 5 jokes. Here we go.
So why do cows have hooves instead of feet? Because they lack toes.
They lack toes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes,
That's
lactose.
a good one.
And they give milk, so
All
it's
right.
lactose. Yes. Always helps when I explain the joke.
All right.
Number 2.
What's the difference between an etymologist and an entomologist? An etymologist would know the difference.
What does an etymologist do?
Entomologist, I think, is insects.
Oh, real? Oh, okay.
I don't know the other etymologists.
Either way, not bad. Number 3.
The other day, my friend was telling me that I didn't understand what irony meant, which was ironic because we were standing at a bus stop at the time.
We both laughed at that one. Let's say 1 and 1.
Yes.
All right. Number 4, I believe.
Yes.
What do you get when you cross a joke with a rhetorical question?
Repeat.
That's a rhetorical question.
Yes. Okay.
That's the joke.
So that's the repeat part.
It's the silence that weighs. And finally, the final one. Here we go.
A man tried to sell me the coffin the other day. I told him that's the last thing I need.
Plus the nails. Okay.
That's a good one, too. I laughed at that one. So we're pretty much even. We both didn't win. So
Okay.
Make sure you guys check out Trade Bank of Nashville. All the details are in the description. Reach out to Ed. He's game to meet just about anybody and have a good conversation. He is an Aussie, and make sure you tell him I said hello. So onward and upward, man. Here we go. Getting more into things, Dr. Bijoy John.
Yes, you can talk about cricket with
Yes.
Ed, and he'll love you for it.
Yeah,
So-
is that a sport that you got into, cricket?
Yes.
Did
That's
you?
how we bonded over it, and I was on his show also last month.
Oh, were you?
Yep.
That's the Nashville 2?
Correct.
Is that what it's called? Yeah.
Something like that.
Something like that. So you can probably go back to the previous episode that we did with Dr. Bijoy John and hear about his history and how you got into sleep. So we're not going to cover that here. I think what we'll talk about is everything that you've been doing. I'm fascinated with the concept, like I said, of sleep debt. I have brought that up. I remind my kids about it too, that, hey, when you guys spend a couple hours here and there at night, either on your phone or electronics and stuff like that, it's like a credit card balance. You got to think about that because eventually the bill's going to come due. Excuse me.
Just think about it that if you're supposed to sleep about 7 to 8 hours, children even more, 8 to 10, but adults 7 to 8 hours. But imagine if you don't sleep 1 hour a night, end of 7 days, you've not slept the whole night. That's a 7-hour debt. So every hour that you don't sleep, you're adding it, and you've lost a full nights of sleep. So imagine you're walking around like that and thinking, why am I not feeling good? Why am I so tired? Why am I so in a mental fog? Why am I angry? Why am I reacting to it? Sleep is huge in the mental space, mental health space. Anxiety and depression, have the vicious cycle. They have the dual relationship. The more you don't sleep, the more you're more anxious. The more anxious you don't sleep. So it's you have to break the cycle. Yeah. So by sleeping better, you can heal there.
And the good news is that you can earn your sleep back.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
It just takes a little time maybe. And you can't do it like, going to bed at 8 to get up at 6. You literally have to do it maybe in 15-minute, 30-minute increments.
Correct. So the common thing when people go to bed, let's say they go to bed at 10, they can't sleep till midnight. So what do most people do? They actually go to bed earlier, trying to entice sleep to come. It doesn't happen that. So the proven sleep technique that I'm going to talk about is the sleep schedule that I also, mentioned in my book and my course. So I tell people to sleep closer to the time you fell asleep, not the time you went to sleep. Like, so you fall asleep around 11:30, go to bed around 11:30, but wake up at 6.
Right.
Right? So if you do that for about 2 weeks, then you will be able to go to bed around 11, and then you push it back to 10:30 and so on. But you have to wake up at 6 a.m. Here, in people who don't sleep, I'm trying to create a sleep debt.
Right.
But so that what happens, eventually you'll be able to change your schedule around. But I also caution people not to take a nap because I'm creating that sleep pressure or sleep debt here.
Right.
But there are the common thing that we all see is the insufficient sleep. That's where the natural sleep debt. So this sleep debt, I try to create it as a part of my program so that you will be able to create the pressure and have a solid 7 to 8 hours at night.
Do you think that is a large part of why people are kind of going through what they're going through, mental health-wise?
Correct. And sleep is the unifying thing for many things. If you have uncontrolled blood pressure, you're on multiple blood pressure medication, a sleep disorder called sleep apnea will, once you fix that, I've had hundreds of patients come down off their blood pressure medication. They are on 3-4 medication. You cut down on by correcting your sleep apnea. Yeah. Right? Same thing with diabetes. There is this flight or fight response that happens when you have an apnea. So once you control your sleep apnea, your diabetes is better. And the same thing, one of the treatable or preventable causes of Alzheimer's dementia is obstructive sleep apnea, right? So
really?
Yeah, so there is a muck building in our brain, and good sleep needs to, this is called the lymphatic system. Our brain is just like the lymphatic system in our rest of the body. The brain has something called the lymphatic system, and it only moves and clears the muck out when you sleep well. So years of damage by having sleep apnea, your brain doesn't get enough oxygen, and there's narrowing of blood vessels, and some of the areas that are very sensitive to oxygen die off, and then you have memory problems. So it's a superpower. It controls so many parts of our functions. Not to mention your sexual dysfunction is also attributed to poor sleep and conditions like sleep apnea. So it affects all parts of our body.
My wife has always, sleep has been like an enemy to her, which I don't really understand because I fall asleep very easily. Even if I get home, and especially during the winter months where you've taken the time change into consideration, it gets darker earlier, I'll get home and lay on the couch, kind of settle in. And eventually I'm like, I'm out, and I find myself 10 minutes, a little bit of a power nap, and I'm good.
Yes.
But I could still go to sleep at 10:30 or so, or maybe 11. I like to get to bed around 10, just kind of, fiddle around as I'm not supposed to do on my electronics. And I, scroll through the feeds, and eventually I just fall asleep. That's just something that's just my routine. And I'm typically up around 6:30. I mean, it's never really evaded me. I am, I did have sleep apnea pretty badly. Got me on the old CPAP, which added about 10 to 15 pounds, which a lot of people think that you get on a CPAP is you're going to lose weight.
Yes.
Man. No.
It's a myth, Jim. So you're struggling to breathe and you're spending a lot of energy. It's a common thing I see when people, are treated with CPAP. They actually gain weight because you're not spending any more energy at night trying to breathe.
Your body's not trying to survive.
Correct. Yeah. But then you have to use the energy that you have during the day to work out and exercise. So there you go. So women have a terrible time for many, many reasons. I've dedicated a chapter for women in my book. Women's sleep is so nuanced, from child rearing to their monthly hormonal changes. And of course, when you reach menopause, it's when the estrogen levels drop, you're at risk for sleep apnea, and their sleep it's horrible. Yeah. So my mom taught me how to sleep, so I said I have to honor women, and I said I wrote a chapter on how to improve, taking some of the little nuances and some changes you can sleep better.
Right. And how's that? Are women a large demographic in what you do?
Yes, for
tortured souls.
Yeah, for insomnia, 70% of the clients are women, and for sleep apnea, 70% are men. So sleep apnea is more prevalent. Snoring, and men's snoring is more loud because the nature of our voice boxes. Women's voice box is smaller, and the pathway in the behind the throat is narrow, much narrower in men, and then the soft palate. And the uvula that we see are all kind of smaller in men, so that the vibrations are more. And imagine air going into a larger trumpet. Our larynx is larger, and so that's the sound. The snoring is much, much louder in men. And also, women don't report much snoring. Yeah. So that's why sleep apnea is much underdiagnosed in women.
Ultimately, people just you got to start taking sleep seriously.
Yes.
Especially in this the hustle culture that we talked about and touched on earlier. It really, I see those posts that, I thrive on 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night. And
it's catch up with gosh. You. The common thing people say is, I'll sleep when I die. Well, I tell you're going to carry on this behavior, you're going to die.
It'll happen sooner than you think.
Hey, Middle Tennessee electricians, handy women and men, and just those of you needing better commercial LED lighting solutions. Yeah, I know, there's so many of you. I have to tell you, there's another option than just the big orange and blue box stores now. Try j2lighting.com. At j2lighting.com, we have the latest technology in all types of commercial LED lighting, from UFO high base, drawers, area lights, and shoeboxes, right on down to a slimline wall pack that doesn't look like a fist coming off the wall like most other wall packs do. You get what I'm saying, right? Many of our fixtures are wattage and color temperature selectable, which means you have more control over the brightness and appearance in your dark spaces. Check us out at j2lighting.com for a great local source for your commercial LED lighting ideas, even full color light show dreams. Yeah, totally. That's the letter J and number 2 lighting.com. j2lighting.com.
So, I know how it feels. I have struggled with sleep. It's a bad feeling. Part of my work I did, I was on call all the time, and you're just in a zombie-like state. Of course, grief is a big thing, and, you worry about things. So you have to have a structure. Yeah. But I was able to work through it, and I want to share this with as many people as I can.
Can you turn a not morning person into a morning person, you think?
Correct. So some people are short sleepers, so you should not confuse that. So how you feel the next day after, let's say you're a short sleeper, you need only 4 or 5 hours. Like if you see Elon Musk, he doesn't sleep much, but then I think of late he's very aware of it, and he actually went on TV and said, hey, everybody sleep, don't be like me. Some people have a previous presidents like Obama and Trump, they don't sleep much, but that's a gift, but not all of us do have it. Yeah. So I need about 7.5 hours sleep. like do most other people. So it all depends on how you feel the next day. If you're feeling great, then no problem. If you're tired, then either you have a sleep problem or you have a habit problem, right?
Yeah.
So some people tend to go later and later. That's a behavioral problem, especially in children and teens, because of so many things, social activity, and the hormones are changing. So you actually go to bed, and it's a condition called delayed sleep phase syndrome. So your clock is moved forward. So very few % have that as a condition, but most of them is behaviorally induced. So we can push that clock back very easily. I do that all the time.
Oh, in terms of actually physically reversing the
Correct.
clock.
Yes.
To trick your body into thinking it's later or early
Correct.
or whatever.
Yes. So if your clock is way far, let's say you only go to bed at 5 in the morning, I just keep pushing the clock forward, and then catch it on the back end. If you're going to bed at 1, I can push it the other way around too.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, wow. But I mean, at the end of the day, literally,
Yes.
if somebody like, even my business partner, he can only really fall asleep between 1 and 2 in the morning from what I recall. And he's lucky if he makes it till 6,
Yes.
So I guess a little bit of insomnia, it's like, okay, this is all well and good. I know I need more sleep, but what if I just can't get sleep?
Correct. So that's it's a night owl.
Mm-hmm.
So he's actually compromised. That's free advice for him. He has to find out why. Or he may be a short sleeper himself. If he's doing great the rest of the day, then more power to him. He may be a
Right.
short sleeper.
Right. Oh, so I guess it's like a to each their own kind of thing.
Correct. Yes.
Some people just thrive on less amount of hours of sleep.
But it all depends on how you feel the next day. If you're feeling great, then it's okay. But then if you're tired, my complaint is I start to take it seriously when people are saying, I sleep 8 hours, I'm still tired. Hey, you might have a sleep disorder.
Yeah. Do you get any pushback from some of these guys that I tag you in posts when they mention that they wake up at 4 and they've got their morning routine and yada, yada, yada?
Give them a year, I tell. So you'll catch up with it. Because your function is compromised. Your performance, you can be at your optimal best. It's like a well-cleaned, well-oiled engine, that's going to perform much better than, an engine that's going all the time. It won't perform well.
So, I mean, imagining that somebody, I'm getting my 8 hours, it's just offset. So I'm getting, one of my clients, he'll go to bed at 8 or 9, and he likes to get up at 4 in the morning. And maybe it's just natural as he's gotten older. It's just easier to get up earlier and earlier and earlier.
Yes.
But he still goes to bed at 8 or 9 o'clock. He's still getting the requisite amount of hours.
How old is he, Jim?
He's pushing, I think he's 70.
All right, so that's perfect.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's like another clock problem. Teenagers' clock moves forward. When you turn 70, elderly or older adults, their clock moves, the other way around, backwards.
Really?
So that's called advanced sleep phase compared to the teenagers, what's called delayed sleep phase. So that's a common phenomenon. The challenge is everybody else is sleeping. Older adults are walking around, making coffee and disturbing the people around. So that's a challenge.
So ideally, you would encourage somebody 10 to 6 if you can.
Correct.
Try and get 7-8 hours of sleep.
That's it.
As quality sleep.
Exactly.
Right. Deep REM sleep, as they call it, I guess. Right.
It's a common another common misunderstanding. REM we need for our psyche to heal, but the sweet sleep is stage 3 non-REM sleep. That's where the sweet restful. See, in REM our mind is very, very active. So, but our body.
I guess that comes with the rapid eye movement.
Correct. That's why the REM sleep. But it's a common, a misconception. REM sleep is restful sleep. It's not so. It's the stage 3 non-REM sleep. That's the sweetest sleep, right? So how you feel depends on how much sleep you have. Right. Some people can have 4 hours and get that high of that, the N3 sleep. But some people sleep 8 hours and they spend in REM sleep and they're like, I didn't even sleep much. The one of the major referrals for me is the wearables, I call it, all the devices people are wearing. I'm actually not a huge fan of it. I tell people to wear it and get that information, but people start ruminating about it and worrying about it, and then they can't sleep. They don't know what to do with the data. So after a week, I tell everybody to throw it away. So they look at heart rate variability, and if you have, it does say about heart rate. The diagnosis of atrial fibrillation is good for all that, but for sleep, the gadgets or the wearables are terrible.
So even a CPAP you're not crazy about?
Oh, CPAP, I'm absolutely a huge fan.
Yeah.
CPAP saves lives.
Yeah.
By treating sleep apnea, you probably add 10 years to your life.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Because it's funny, my father, I believe, had sleep apnea.
Yeah.
He was just a monster snorer. And he died at 64. But, all the different ailments that could have been, what he died of could have been stemmed from just sleep apnea.
Yeah.
Just lack of oxygen to the brain,
Correct.
all that stuff, You talked about, supplemental devices. A lot of people love melatonin.
Yes.
You're not a big proponent of that either, are you?
Yes, because we have our own body's melatonin. We make it. So melatonin is a hormone. Is darkness. It only secretes at nighttime. So all the devices we are using, the phones, that tells our brain it's still daytime and you're not secreting enough melatonin. So you take melatonin. I only use melatonin if you have a jet lag or the clock problem, either forward or backward. I use that. Other than that, I don't recommend it, especially for children. I do not recommend melatonin because your body will, reject it, and then you have to go higher in the dosage. And I don't use melatonin.
Well, what is your? Are you a 10 to 6 sleeper?
Correct. I go to bed, sometimes 10:30.
Yeah.
And 6. Well, even I wake up at 6 without an alarm.
You even talk about creating an environment for sleep.
Correct. So that's my, the 7 proven sleep strategies. I can go over it now.
Sure.
So it's called the Sleep Now.
Yeah.
So we'll go with S. Here's the schedule. Like I said, 10 to 6. If you don't have it, for any plan to succeed, you have to have the sleep, good plan. So if you're struggling, don't go to bed at 10. Go to closer to the time you fell asleep. So have that pattern, but make sure you wake up at 6 a.m. So you're creating the sleep debt and you're able to. So the next is low light, low temperature, low noise. Low light, this is a major challenge because you want to have the darkness in your room because the melatonin that I said it's only secreted in darkness. But we have all these gadgets with us. The next is E, my favorite, is electronics, the cell phone. See what happens in your bedroom, there's no ambient light. So for the phone, the light from the phone is so powerful and tricks our brain saying it's still daytime. Sleep is one thing. You can't. It's a counter of the hustle culture. You got to work it to get it. You can't just hustle it. So electronics is a big thing. So I actually keep my phone. I don't use my phone at least an hour, but I tell people at least 30 minutes is good. And then I keep my phone in my bathroom next to me. So I set an alarm. So I literally have to wake up and go and turn it off if I have to. If it's close to you, you're looking at it, and then you might wake up in the middle of the night, look at the phone, and say, "Hey, it's 2:00." Oh, wow, it's only 2:00. It increases the cognitive activity. So that's I
find it great. It's only 2:00. I got 4 more hours. Cool.
Yes, and then you have E. So exercise again makes heat. So I tell people if you exercise, the best time to exercise is in the morning, but stay away from exercise at least 4 hours prior to going to sleep. This is how you're calming your body. So you're calming your mind. So the next is a P in the acronym sleep. So everybody's got the SLEEP is the powering off your mind. So you've done the other two, the phone. And so I also tell people to practice something called, vivid imagination. That's my own technique that I help people with sleep. I do that every night. I started, I'm the director of my show. So what do people do? They bring all their worries to the bed, and you don't want to be in bed in reality. You want to go in the abstract. So I tell people to start dreaming. If you watch the show, I want you to be the producer of the show, and then what happens? So that's my vivid imagination for sleep. And then also I tell people to practice yoga nidra. You lay down with your hands up. It's called the corpse pose. Then you started focusing on different parts of your body. You can also practice Andrew Wales breathing technique. So you kind of focus on your breathing, and then you pass into this abstract. So that's the P. So then the NO, I've combined in the Sleep Now acronym. NO, I've combined it. So it's no to worries. As humans, we worry all the time. I tell people to worry between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. I worry, I got to get prepared to your show, Jim's show. I took out all the emails, whatever I need to do, all the prerequisites. I did it all last night. I don't do anything. I'm in preparation to going to sleep. So that's NO. So the W is win by losing, right? So in everything we want, hustle, do everything. Sleep is something, it's like through the back door. You can't be at it. You have to, it's like dinner, it's a 7-course meal. You have to take it slow, have the music playing, you have to have the wine, you have to have the salad. You can't go straight from 60 to 0, right? We want life to be like that. We want sleep to be an on and off switch, but it doesn't happen. It is a dimmer. You have to take it slow. So SLEEPNOW, the Sleep Now. I'm available on my website. So if you want to take that course, it's a sleep questionnaire. You want to look. So this is the 7 proven strategies. I've helped hundreds of patients. I practice this every day. This works. It is going to be hard. It'll take 4 to 6 weeks to get better. Mm-hmm. But if you're suffering for 10, 15 years, come on, 6 weeks in that span without any pills. I'm into this holistic. I've taken a lot of my patients off medications and empower them. We have everything. We have melatonin. We can calm our mind down. So if you focus on that, you are a winner.
Anything in the CBD space that you'd recommend?
CBD, some people have pain. And then pain is a big distractor and deterrent to sleep. So that'll be good. But CBD as such for sleep is not the best. I won't recommend CBD to go to sleep. Right. But if you have pain or if you're taking for other reasons, that's fine, but not for sleeping. I don't recommend it.
The other thing I kind of added to my, I guess not repertoire, but I've added a grounding blanket. You ever use one of those?
So the weighted blanket?
And not a weighted.
Yes.
My wife's got a weighted blanket.
Yes.
I have a grounding blanket.
Okay.
It literally plugs into the wall, into the ground of a plug. So I get a grounding effect. Like, you ever hear of the concept of grounding?
Yeah.
Standing on the earth with your feet?
Yes. Yeah, that's so important. But I don't know about that blanket. I need to look into it.
Oh, man. It dawned on me because, grounding helps with inflammation. And that's, I guess, one of the root causes of a lot of disease and ailments is inflammation.
Correct.
Right? Mm-hmm. I started using it maybe about, 3-4 months ago. And it dawned on me as I was going down the stairs, I'm like, wow, nothing hurts.
Wow,
you know what I mean?
It really works then.
It just it wasn't like a placebo or anything. It was one of those things where my knees actually feel pretty good. Granted, I got to drop some weight. I got to drop about 50 pounds.
Yeah.
But it typically, thanks to the damn CPAP that added 20, but it was one of those things that I got to start looking into, and especially as you get older and older and older, more difficult it becomes to keep in shape. This has really helped amazingly.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of tried it out. We had one that we laid on, and my wife wasn't too big into it because it would kind of get caught up and ruffled and stuff like that. Plus it felt kind of rubbery. This one, you literally just put it over you. I make sure my feet are touching it, my knees and stuff like that. It just dawned on me. I'm like, wow, I feel a whole lot better. It's
that's
crazy.
Good information. I'll look into it. Right? Yeah. So inflammation is the problem, but sleep is needed to. You have sleep apnea and you're taking care of it. That's the greatest thing. If for your listeners, if anybody's snoring or tired, we have to rule out sleep apnea. That's the best thing you'll do for yourself.
And that's the thing, man. It's like even when you're talking to people that are in that, getting back to the whole entrepreneurial space. The bad information, these guys that, all you got to do is wake up an hour earlier and you get so much more done. No, man. It's like, figuring out what your pattern is. If you're an early phase, if you're a later phase, that's really key. That's really key.
I have a sleep assessment and a sleep journal available on my website, sleepfixacademy.com, where you can download and measure your sleep and your progress. I use technology and everything, but for sleep, I don't. I actually make people, like a diagram, scratch out how much they sleep, and they bring it to me, and you can see visually what time they go to sleep. I tell you can't drink too much alcohol towards bedtime, so they're able to see all that. How many naps they think, where they're taking the caffeine, how many sleeping pills. So it's an eye opener. I put it out there. People are able to look and change it right in front of my eyes. It takes about 4 to 6 weeks. I tell people getting good sleep, that the process is like taking the stairs. It's going to take a little bit. It's not like taking the lift. It's not easy.
Right. So it'll happen. It's like anything else, hustlers, that you got to put time and work into it.
Right.
Oddly enough, it being sleep. But what about like power naps and stuff like that?
I'm a huge fan of power naps, but not more than 30 minutes. So the natural lull, we're going to get into that. Our body is at a dip around 2:30 between around 1:30, 3:30 in the afternoon, we're all tired. That's why we never have meetings. We don't go to. Have you ever gone to a meeting? No. We always go for 7. So our body's at the best and the brightest at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. So that's why 7 p.m. slot's called the prime time, right? So, but in the afternoon we are tired. So at that time, the body's kind of it's a low lull. You can take a nap, 20 minutes. But if you're sleeping too much, then you're operating on a debt, right?
Yeah.
You might even have a medical problem. There's a lot of data about how heart failure patients sleep too much even when they nap, or if you can, if you have neurological problems, and even have conditions like COPD or breathing problem, you tend to be you're sleepy. So your body's trying to tell you something. But
so
power nap's great.
Is that a debt or a surplus at that point if you're sleeping too much?
It's see, even though you sleep too much, you're not getting the quality sleep.
Oh, okay.
So if you're taking a nap, and if it's more than 30 minutes, you're forced to take about an hour or 2 hours, then you're operating on a debt.
Yeah. So that, you see kids doing that. My kids are, they'll come home from school and sleep for like 3 hours.
Yes.
Yeah,
So because
that's a bad thing.
They're catching up.
Yeah.
With sleep. I remember my son, he called me and said, he was in college and said, I have a sleep problem. I said, son, come on, you don't have a sleep problem. You have an insufficient sleep. So he comes home and sleeps for 3 days, a lot of hours, and then he's fine.
Yeah.
So
pull that mic down a little bit more. Just take the whole arm and bend it on down. There you go.
all right.
There we
So
go.
major problems in kids, especially in teenagers, is a sleep debt is huge.
But I mean, we all did that, right?
Well,
It's funny because even now, whenever I want to sleep in on a Sunday or something like that, I can't. I can barely get past like 7:30, 8 o'clock. And I'm like, I'm just up.
That's it. That's good. That's a sign of restful sleep.
Is it? So I'm good then.
You're good. You have your sleep apnea. Another in adults, the number one cause of being tired is obstructive sleep apnea.
Well, I mean, I guess since I've been on the CPAP, I've been getting good quality sleep.
Yeah, I know when you came.
Yeah. You and I, we met on the Zoom.
Yes.
Getting into, you talked about the lulls during certain points of the day.
Yes.
And we'll kind of end with this. We'll wrap with this with the NFL.
Oh my God!
Yeah. So
I'm probably the first guy who paying attention to it, right? So I have a TikTok video that's coming up, and my handle is Dr. Sleep Fix. So in the tagline or the hook is the NFL is rigged because.
So you're capitalizing on stuff that's happening already.
Yes.
There's a lot of people believing that the NFL is rigged.
Yes.
Okay.
But I think there's data, for sure, it's published data. I looked into it when I wrote my book. I have a chapter called The Third Quarter Slump. I have to dedicate a chapter for athletes because sleep is so important for athletes. But here, what's happening is, see, the lower teams always play at noon, right? Have you ever seen the high-ranked teams play at noon? They always play at 7.
Yeah, because typically on the weekends it's noon, 3:30, and then 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Correct.
Game.
So the good teams play and the
Later
good times.
on.
Even we saw the championship games. They never started at noon. They started around 2:30. Right.
Yeah.
So there's data 10 years ago about the West Coast teams play better at night games because the other teams are sleepier, but because their time 7 o'clock is the other team's time is like 9 p.m. so they're sleepy. So that data is there. But the data here that what I'm trying to do is for example, my favorite team, the Titans. I'm a season ticket holder. I go in the stadium and I'm seeing the crowds lull. We lose a lot of points in the third quarter, and we're trying to make up in the fourth quarter.
Because you're always typically playing at noon.
Correct. So I looked at the numbers. The net point differential was minus 23 points, and the previous year was minus 19.
Yeah.
So this is 22 and 21. I've not looked at 23. I'm going to look in a minute. So the data don't lie, right? The offense is not well. The defense is not well. Can you imagine? See, we trade up players up and down. We do for equality. I think we should trade the times for all the teams. The lower team should never be stuck at noontime. I think. Can you imagine the lower performing teams and the coaches listen and have that information? They should fight for it. I'm really surprised nobody has looked into it.
Yeah. Well, now you have.
Yes. So
and I remember us talking about it when we recorded those 10 episodes.
Yes.
Because you had an actual data sheet.
Correct. That's what I was saying. I still remember it's minus 22 points, net
Right.
point differential. So
That's crazy.
yes, I think it's 23 points. So that's all the data out there. So why would we change? We're changing players. We're changing everything else. What we need to change time. I think the lower teams should clamor for the 7 p.m. slot.
I think you need to get like maybe a teaser TikTok and Instagram reel, YouTube short kind of video that teases more of an exploratory video. Maybe that episode that we did, because you had, I believe that the way it was going to be edited, you were going to cut to those shots,
yes.
right? So maybe that's the video. You actually promote it with, hey guys, I have a theory. Here, I've got multiple years of data that noon games, depending on where the team is from, they have a lull in the third quarter typically.
Yes.
Anybody who's listening at the Titans, let's talk.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
They need to. I mean, the players spend so much time training, diet, but then, the time, and actually we can do something about it if you change what you eat and, try to rev your body up so that you won't have that lull. We can do a little bit, few changes.
Yeah. Well, because you have even like the Lions this past weekend, when at the time of this recording is the week after the playoffs. The Lions lost to the 49ers, which set up the 49ers and the Chiefs for the upcoming Super Bowl.
Correct.
Which at this point, when this episode comes out, the Super Bowl probably have already happened. But here you got the Lions, who are typically on East Coast time. Yes. They've had to go to Pacific time to play, and it was a night game.
Yeah, sure. That data is always there. The West Coast teams,
right? So if you really look at if you apply what you're saying, the Lions came back and gave up their lead in the second half.
Yes. They didn't score. They scored heavily we were all thinking they're going to have they scored 14 points, and then they didn't do nothing like
a quarter and a half.
Yes.
So they come back and they're in a lull.
Yes.
So that means at that point it was about 8:00 our time, which was really 9:00 Eastern time.
Yes.
So they're 3 hours behind. It's 6:00 in the Pacific time.
Yes.
And, they're kind of like already, their bodies are already getting into the mode of we need sleep.
Yes.
Because when they did come back, it kicked in 10:30 their time, Eastern time.
Yes.
So that really
it was too late.
Oh, wow.
So there's.
You think that was a reason why they?
It could be one. Players, several reasons, but you can see consistent. I can talk about because I looked into the data in noon games for the Titans. So this is something to look into. It's not.
So how do you overcome that though? Is it supplemental? Is it nutrition?
By changing when you go to sleep. A few days before the game, so you're moving the clock.
Oh.
Plus, you don't eat a high carb meal for lunch or even breakfast. So because the high carb meals, even 4 hours prior, is going to make you sleepy. So try to avoid that. And then you come in at the end of the second quarter and then work out. Keep your don't fight it.
Because the halftime is typically 15, 20 minutes.
Correct. So during that, rev up, and so you don't let your natural body go in. And even you can take caffeine. Caffeine is not banned by the doping agency. So, but you have to be careful with how much you use.
Right.
And then you have to work with a trainer and
the nutrition of all those people that are on staff.
So you can do a little bit of things.
So they need you to be like, the Titans need to hire you to kind of hack the sleep algorithm.
Knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
But when you don't know, you're not going to, first just to recognize there's a problem. But if the information is not there, how are you going to act on it? So,
right. That's an interesting. I find that utterly fascinating. Yeah. If you're listening to this episode, you don't find any of this fascinating. You need to wake up. No pun intended.
Yes.
I think you never really know how much sleep really. We do and we don't. To the extent it impacts football, for crying out loud. So we've got the game coming up, Super Bowl. It's going to be in Vegas. It's on Pacific time. So the 49ers are already at an advantage.
Correct.
So the Chiefs are on our time. They're on Central time.
Yes.
So they're going to be 2 hours ahead.
Yes.
So the Super Bowl, I think, kickoff is typically at 6 p.m.
Yes.
So they're already going to be at 8 p.m.
Correct.
So do you think that they're going to be at a disadvantage?
Absolutely. If there's data out there, just Google and say the advantages. That was already published data. The West Coast team play better.
What's stopping you from reaching out to, the Chiefs organization saying, hey, I'm a sleep doctor. I think you guys are at a massive disadvantage. Have you guys thought about this? If you want me to come out, I'll do a pro bono just to kind of get a feather in my cap to say I helped out the NFL. If you guys see value in this, let's talk.
Yeah, I mean,
or would you rather do it with the Titans?
I'd probably rather do it with my own team. So you're always a local, regional, national kind and global kind of approach, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be good at what you do closest to you, just like family life. You have to be the kindest to your immediate family members, your spouse and your children, and then you go to friends.
That's just crazy, man. Honestly, I'll be completely honest. When we did those episodes, I was like, well, hey, we'll see what we can make out of it and everything. I was utterly fascinated. You know this.
Yes.
I'm like, this is just crazy.
Because man. I'm trying to figure out
I know.
the body's biorhythms. The body don't lie, stats don't lie. You can't beat it. Maybe you can get away with a little bit of it, but it'll catch up with you. So just think, why were you sleepy at certain times? The body's telling you something, right? So just follow that. Again, I'm telling you, we never have a 2 p.m. meeting. So wonder why, duh.
Right. So now that you're listening to this, make sure you go out and buy the book, sleepfixacademy.com.
Yeah, my book's called Nobody's Sleeping.
Nobody's Sleeping. And the podcast is called that as well.
Yes.
So anything that you want to look into with Dr. Bijoy John, make sure you go to sleepfixacademy.com.
Yeah, take a sleep assessment.
It's free,
do a
right?
journal. Yeah, it's free.
Right. You download the journal is free as well.
Yes.
And the course is something that they can do. They can
do it at their own pace.
At their own pace.
Correct.
And of course, they want one-to-one guidance from you. They can always reach out. And,
correct. I got all my information there. There's a lot of free stuff there.
Right.
People can empower themselves because I've discovered the joy and I want to share it with the world, and that's my passion.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm at it.
And you're a bona fide doctor. You know what you're talking about.
I'm the real doctor. There's so
you are
much
the real deal.
So I have 25 years of experience in this field, and I see this time and time again and again. I thought I'll write a book to empower more people because knowledge is power, my friends. So once you have it, you can conquer the world.
The dude knows what he's going. I've seen the cars he owns. So it's
That's a byproduct of what you do. That's everything. All the good happens for what you do. So,
absolutely.
Yes.
So the guys definitely check out. I just addressed you as guys. It's just something I preach against with podcasters. Not guys, but person listening to this episode. I'm speaking directly to you. Make sure you do check out Sleep Fix Academy. Truly, it blew me away when we sat and did these podcast episodes several months ago. It really opened my eyes to a lot of things. Started speaking into my kids' life, teaching them about sleep debt, even though they're at the age right now that I don't know anything, and eventually, hopefully, they'll turn around when they're 20s and they say, hey, Dad kind of knew a thing or two, and so did Mom, and take those kinds of things seriously. Start thinking about your sleep debt. Start thinking about how seriously you take your sleep. Stop listening to these guys that tell you to, sleep is for when you get older or when you die and all this other crap. It leads to a healthier life. I'm discovering that. I've never had an issue with sleep, but man, the CPAP really did make a difference, adversely with the weight, but I'm trying to fix that now. But it really did kind of work for me. I look forward to putting it on, and it just gives you a much better sleep experience. I feel much better rested,
Correct. You're going to the deep sleep, your body's not struggling. See, the CPAP treatment, I tell it's like the biggest insurance policy at night, right? Mm-hmm. We have all this insurance policy during the day. It keeps you alive because imagine when you're stopping breathing, the word apnea means it's a fancy Greek word to stopping breathing. The heart's under stress. Yeah. So imagine climbing stairs, your heart and your breathing go together. Imagine not breathing well. Now the heart has to beat faster, right? Yeah. So that's the underlying cause for uncontrolled blood pressure and diabetes. And so you are at risk for arrhythmias. So irregular heart rate. That's why a lot of people die in their sleep because their heart's acting out. So you want to give it a rest. So the good rest.
Just understand that you're going to have to get up and work out,
Correct.
Get past that first 5 minutes. That's what I do when I work out. You're not going to want to work out in the morning. It's not fun. It sucks. But once you're actually, 5 minutes into it, it's cool. It's getting past that first 5 minutes. I would say this, excuse me, the same thing for sleep is essentially the same,
Correct.
just
So-
getting past the first 5 minutes or closing your eyes, relaxing. All
Yeah,
that
that's
stuff.
all the sleep strategies will help you guide, get you there. So
Right. Well,
do
there
this-
you go.
Do the sleep now, acronym. You'll get there.
All that stuff is at sleepfixacademy.com, right?
Correct.
Okay, so make sure you check that out. All the details, of course, will be in the description. Check out TradeBank as well. And if you like this episode, you think that somebody needs to be on it that we haven't thought about, Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals are typically who we talk to. Send them to MMTBP.com. That's mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast.com or MMTBP.com. The more I say it, the more you're going to remember it. Check us out. Of course, rate, review, like, share, all that fun stuff. And we deeply appreciate it. We're trying to get about 500 to 1,000 downloads on average. Hey, why not? Let's shoot for the old BHAG of 10,000 average downloads per episode. That takes you sharing it. That takes you telling more people about it and seeing how they can find us. Dr. Bijoy John, always a pleasure, my friend.
Thanks, Jim. And my final outro, they call it, is sleep well and be well, and let's go sleeping.
Let's go sleeping. I love it. Nice.